This is Jack Richard. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. And once again, thank you so much for helping us to become a top 10 comedy fiction podcast on Apple. We really could not do it without all of you awesome fans. Thank you so much for spreading the word. And hey, shout out to Ireland. We made number 2 last week. Thanks a lot, guys.
On your mark.
Welcome to Tales from the Rift. I'm Jen. I play news reporter August Potts on the scripted Portalville podcast series.
And I'm John. I write and produce the show. I also play new character Detective Jack Redshirt on our new season 2.
And we have a very special guest joining us today. You may recognize him from many film and TV titles as Charlie Brewster from one of the greatest vampire movies ever made, Fright Night, Mr. William Ragsdale. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, thank you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for having me on.
Well, how are you today? Doing well?
Doing very well today. Yeah, I'm on the East Coast, and it's spring now, which is nice. It's been winter for a long time, but yeah, everything is good. It's finally the middle of May. It's starting to look like spring, so yeah. Everything is fine. Everything is good.
Great.
Cool. Well, I think our first question, can we talk about your journey, how you got into acting and then landed your role in Fright Night? So what inspired you to get into acting?
Yeah, I grew up in a little town in Arkansas, and there really were 2 main activities, and that was football and hunting. And I was not really drawn to either one of those. But one of the things they had in my little hometown was a little community theater. And for where it is and when it was really quite well patronized and supported and all that stuff. And so they would do like 4 plays a year. And they also had what was a little children's theater group there, and that's where I started at like 10 years old doing little children's theater stuff, and then sort of graduated to some of the adult plays, and then I did it in college. And about a month before I graduated, I thought I should learn to do something for a living, I guess. And so my parents actually were really supportive. They said, why don't you go give this thing a shot, see how it goes. If it doesn't work out, you can come home. And so that's what I did. I went out to California right after college and did a professional training program there for a year in the Bay Area, and then ended up in New York, and then ended up back in Los Angeles after that. So,
And your parents are happy that you didn't come home, or they miss you?
Well, I like to think they missed me, but they were very happy with the success that happened pretty quickly. And my dad was, I'm sure, glad he didn't have to send me money anymore for the rent. But even though in those days I lived in San Francisco, and I was in Haight, and my apartment was $250 a month, so it wasn't too much of a strain financially, but no, it was good. It worked out. And then I got down to LA and was there for a while, and then sort of bounced back and forth between New York and LA, and just kept doing that. So.
Yeah, and you've been very busy since.
Yeah.
Kind of busy, yeah, which is good. That's what you want.
Yeah.
I was telling her, I'm like, if we go through everything he's done, it's going to be like a government filibuster. Like, you've been in so many titles,
TV shows, yeah.
Can't cover everything, but
yeah.
Yeah, but
yeah, I've been very lucky. I started out doing theater and stuff, and managed to get into movies kind of quickly, and then TV came after that. So I've been very lucky to be able to sort of go all over the place, do kind of whatever I wanted to do, or whatever they were hiring people to do. So it's been very fortunate.
Yeah, and it sounds fun. Never doing the same thing. It's always something new.
Yeah. You can always, the grass is always greener somewhere else. So you can say, well, we're doing this, but then I could do that, and I could go over here and all that stuff. So, but yeah, it's been a really nice, wide variety of experiences. I've sort of been on high-end films, which is its own animal, and then your TV, Sunday night TV show, or doing a play, in a small theater. So it's kind of whatever you want.
Yeah.
What plays were you in? Were you in like a Paul Simon production?
Neil Simon, yes.
Neil Simon. Okay, Paul Simon.
Yeah, same thing. They're probably
Simon
they're
guy.
one of those Simon brothers. Yeah, I did a couple of Neil Simon plays. I did Biloxi Blues, which he did a trilogy, which is Brighton Beach Memoirs, Biloxi Blues, and Broadway Bound. That Matthew Broderick did all the plays in, except for the last one, I think, in New York. And I did two of them. I did Biloxi Blues. I did that in Broadway and a national tour, and then I did Broadway Bound, which was the third in the sequence, and I did that on national tour.
Wow,
but I got to work
Broadway.
Yeah.
So
You
can
right?
sing and dance, huh?
Well, I didn't do any of it in that, so it's still a conjecture about whether that's.
That was my next question was, can you sing a song for us from Broadway now? But
yeah, you know what? Maybe let's do that next episode, because that way I can get my my accompanist here and all that stuff.
Oh man, that's awesome. That takes a lot of skill.
Mm.
So let's see. I'm gonna move ahead here.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Fright Night. Considered one of the best vampire movies of all time. You and Amy Bierce were pretty young when you made this. Cast alongside film legend Roddy McDowall and Chris Sarandon.
Right.
Legendary Tom Holland was the director. Can you tell us what your filming experience was like?
Yeah, I got it really quickly after I'd gotten out of school, and I really didn't. I had never really been on a big budget movie like that. I didn't really know. Most of my stuff had been smaller stuff where you come in and shoot half a day or a couple of days and then you're done. And the script of this thing came with Columbia Pictures on the front. And I thought, that was kind of exciting, kind of thrilling. And so I ended up auditioning several times and got it. And it was kind of unusual because it was the directorial debut of Tom Holland, and Tom had grown up as a stage actor and movie actor, and so he was very into rehearsals. He knew the value of that, and was used to working that way. So we all got together as a cast and we began rehearsing. We rehearsed for like 2 weeks before we shot a single frame of film, and that's really unusual. You don't get to do that ever. So we got to work out a lot of our backstories and our relationships, and the times setting of what was going on when, and so in that sense it was kind of like a play. We kind of rehearsed it as a play and then did it as a movie. So I was really familiar with that rehearsal process, which I think made making the movie a lot easier and very pleasant.
Yeah.
So that was a good experience.
We just watched it again last night just to remember
Oh,
it.
did you?
It was like all of the facial expressions that you had too. Like I was laughing half the movie.
Yeah.
It was so good. It was like, I can't do it. I'm not. But
that was sort of the challenge for me, was that because the events of the movie, it's always this way in a movie, it takes place over maybe a week, maybe 10 days from the first time that he sees the guy until whatever, the big crescendo at the end. But we shot for, 2.5 months. So you've always got to know kind of where you are in the calendar, to know how exasperated, how scared, how hopeless, how, just where you are in the process that's leading up to the end. So that was interesting. That was an interesting thing to experience.
Yeah.
So. I could see how animated you were. And now that you mentioned that you've done plays in Broadway, do you think that so when you're like further away on a stage, do you feel like you need to do things bigger? And then when you're in front of a camera, it sort of like comes through really animated?
Right. Yeah. I mean, the cliche is when you're doing theater, they say, make sure that they can hear you in the back row, make sure that everything you're doing is connecting to the person in the back row of the theater. And film is just the opposite. It's like, you have to just be as quiet and underplay everything as much as you can. It's almost not enough, almost impossible to underplay too much. So that was a learning experience. Luckily, the theme of the movie was enough that I could, freak out visibly enough without throwing a wrench into it.
Yeah, it was the perfect amount.
I think we had interviewed actor William Sadler. He actually told us basically the same thing, because he started off on Broadway too.
Yeah, he was in Biloxi
yeah.
Blues.
Yeah,
he was in the play I did. He was in the they sort of replaced the cast, and he was one of the cast members right before I took over. But I rehearsed with him and stuff. So
wow, yeah, he said that's a really good foundation to have. You know, that
Mm-hmm.
sort of like discipline ahead of time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, it is, and you get used to being, being able to be kind of intimate and alone, but doing it in front of people, which I think theater is, that's obviously what it gives you. So it's good preparation for film too, because you're in film, you're surrounded by people, even though you don't. Even though it's a scene by yourself, you're still with a bunch of people, usually guys in shorts and radios and ponytails and, Teamsters. So.
Yeah. And you have to be able to focus out of that.
Yeah. Like how hard is that to block out like everyone who's surrounding, because people don't really think about it like when they're watching a movie, because you're acting and they're seeing you from like a POV
or like
perspective.
You sneeze or something, and they're like, oh, start over.
That happens. People, the boom will get in the shot, or something will fall, or you'll see something inside the camera lens that if you're just out in a room, you don't notice, but suddenly once you've got that focused area, it's like, oh, it's a glaring, whatever, this window or something like that, you've got to correct. That's why it takes so long to make them, because you're just always correcting, the composition of the shot. So
yeah, but still shooting an entire movie in like 2.5 months is just amazing to me. It still feels very fast. Like
I
see
mean,
what you're saying.
They have a whole team of people there doing it though. But one of the weirdest things was, like, on Fright Night we shot all of the exterior stuff first, and then we moved indoors. So literally I would get out of my car and walk up to a door, in November, and then I would come through the door from the inside in like February, January, something like that. So you really had to sort of get good at like what was going on then, what was my mood when I was coming in, what was I, how do I remember coming in that way? And you got to just, keep it going.
Yeah. So, like throw yourself back in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
I can ask the next one.
Yeah, you can go next.
So we assume like working on a movie like this with all like the special effects, like the practical effects, would be just a blast working on it. Do you have any funny stories from on set you can tell us?
Yeah, I mean, it was these special effects were a lot of fun, because I had been obviously going to movies my whole life and was like, just assumed that magic happens, but just to see how the technical aspect goes, and how the special effects guys were kind of able to manipulate. It's like a magician, they manipulate what you're seeing or what you're noticing. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that was very interesting. There's a scene in Fright Night where I stabbed the vampire with a pencil through the hand, and it goes all the way through, and you see it on both sides because he turns it. And I think I can let the secret out now. This was, obviously two decades before CGI, and they just had a little monofilament string on both pieces of the pencil, or on one piece of the pencil, so that when he pulled it out from one side and turned it over, it wasn't there anymore, because they had pulled it away during the shot. But it's, it was shot on film, so they're actual frames, and you don't notice that kind of thing. Yeah. So that was fun.
It was last night. I'm like, we should ask him like if Chris Sarandon took the stab to the hand, he really stabbed him in the hand, if he was okay afterwards. But
yeah, he was fine. I think his makeup hurt more than that pencil would anyway. He was in the chair for hours for that stuff. Man. So yeah. So in that scene, especially because he sort of, I think my mom is knocking at the door or something, and then he turns a couple of times, and each time he turns, the makeup's a little different. So that's another example of, okay, we have that, 4-second shot. Let's wait 2 hours for him to finish the makeup, and do another 4-second shot. So it's really, really trying on your patience. But
yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah, brutal.
Yeah, it's that tedious work like that I'm just like, wow, they do it so fast, because just like a few seconds in a movie can take days. So,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So speaking of like Roddy McDowell, for example, and Chris Sarandon, how was it working with them? Because you were pretty young when you got cast, in your like early 20s, right?
Yeah.
So did they like welcome you in, give you advice or something cool?
Yeah, Roddy and Chris were both. I mean, Chris, of course, was an Academy nominee, and Roddy had been in the business for, 4 decades or something. And yeah, and they were completely accessible and welcoming and collaborative, and just really, I mean, I didn't know it at the time. I didn't know that was, really a special thing at the time, because that's kind of how it is in theater. You kind of have to collaborate. But for actors of their caliber and stuff, they were really very supportive, and really considered all of us to be equals, and, kind of all in the same fight. And I think the rehearsal process probably helped that out, because you're actually, you're around someone, you're hearing their story, you're, their backstory, you're working together in a very fixed environment. So it just builds that camaraderie. And yeah, so they were great, really terrific.
That's great. Yeah. Let's see. Do you have any really, really bizarre stories from any of your recent films or TV shows as well?
Bizarre. Well, it's all bizarre. It's all bizarre. You have those moments where you're like, why am I, my job is to pretend that I'm doing something, and they know it. The people I'm pretending to know it. I know it. Everybody knows it. This whole, I just did a movie with Nicolas Cage, this movie Renfield, and it was a huge production. It's a Universal picture, and and they had hundreds of people working on it, and all of this amazing special effects and set design, and you're just thinking, we're just making this stuff up, and everybody's, that's what they want. That's what people want. It's probably one of the few professions where, you say to the person, we're going to pretend for you now to do something, and they say, oh, good, that's great. So kind of weird that way.
Yeah, I love it. How was it working with in Renfield with Nicolas Cage and all the rest of the cast?
Yeah, he's great. I've worked with him a couple of times, and he's a super professional guy, and really very focused on the movie he's making, the story, the shots, the, where it is, and the time and place. And this movie, I think, was special for him because it's sort of based on, there are a lot of references to really classic horror films like Frankenstein and Dracula and all that stuff, the old Universal films from the 30s and 40s. And he's a real connoisseur of film. And so he was having a good time on it. He was really enjoying it. And it was fun to be around him, because he knows a lot about it too. He sort of knows the directors and, from those years, and how things were shot. And so it was good. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it.
So Renfield was coming out. It's coming out next year, right?
I think they were shooting for maybe the Christmas season, for November or December or something like that. I don't know if it's going to be all done by that point or not, but I think that's kind of what they were aiming at. But
for 2023?
For 22, I think.
Ooh, this year. Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know what the plan is. We're done, we're finished shooting, so
Yeah.
well, they're
Oh,
working
yeah.
on
That's coming up soon though. That'll be fun to watch.
And
And
yeah,
then,
especially just for like Halloween season, that'd be cool, man.
like right after.
Yeah.
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 And then you've got a couple others as well. There's Knock at the Cabin with M. Night
Yeah, good luck saying it.
Shyamalan. Yeah.
Shyamalan, yeah. Shyamalan.
Shyamalan.
Yeah, I just did a day on it. I just shot for a day on it, but it was with Jonathan Groff, who's a known guy, and Knight was the director, and it was great. It was a lot of fun. He's his system, like a lot of people's, is that you kind of don't know what you're doing. I mean, I didn't get a script. I didn't really know entirely what was going on with it. But I knew my scene and who I was and my relationship and all that stuff. But so I'm kind of excited to see what the movie's about. I'm not entirely sure. But,
yeah, I was gonna ask, can you spoil like what the plot is a little bit?
I can't spoil it. I wish I could. It's unspoilable.
Do you know roughly when we'll get to watch it?
I do not.
So much mystery.
Yeah. I know that Dave Bautista is in it, and Jonathan and me, and that's about all I know. So we'll see. I do know that it takes place in a cabin. I don't think I'm giving away.
Yeah.
There we go. And there's a knock of some kind.
Yeah.
Knock at the cabin.
Mhm.
The cabin has a door, I think. Yes. One might knock at it. So.
And then one more. This one I'm like really interested in. There's one more movie. You're the main actor in it that I see. The Elevator Game.
Oh yes. Yeah. It's another movie. It was guerrilla filmmaking. It was just us, me and a skeleton crew and a couple of other people. Catherine Mary Stewart's in it, and and it's basically a take on the Elevator Game, which is has to do with punching floor numbers in a certain order or something like that. And I saw an early print of it, and it was kind of intriguing. I think that they've expanded it, and I have not seen that version. So I think I think they're trying to make it a little more. They're trying to fill it out a little bit, flesh it out a little bit. I haven't seen the new version though, but it was interesting to shoot. It was very interesting. Also, sort of a similar. I mean, we had a script, but. The director, he was no tour, and he said if he wanted to change something or add something on the spur of the moment, he did. So keeping in mind how all of that stuff is going to fit together is beyond me. So we'll see. Should be fun. It's kind of a throwback to 70s. I think some 70s horror stuff. There's a little weird kind of, not psychedelic, but weird stuff going on in that too.
My mind goes right to the Cecil Hotel.
Yeah, we watched a documentary on what the Elevator Game is based on. It's bizarre, that case.
Yeah.
Case.
But
yeah.
It's I don't think it's related to the Cecil Hotel. That was one of their theories. And I don't know if
that's where they found the woman in
the water tank.
The water tank or something, right?
Yeah.
I think it was in LA.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but that was when I had first heard of the Elevator Game, was with that documentary. And so then I dug into a hole, and I was like, oh my goodness.
She went down a rabbit hole of urban legends.
I must learn
involved,
all of it. Yeah.
Right.
It was really fascinating. And then to see that you're like a main character, like the lead of the film too. I wanted to know if you had any idea on the release date for that.
I don't. I really don't know what they're doing. It's a really small film, so I think that's a whole different metric of how you launch that stuff. I don't really know. I think there's some clips. I don't know if it's on YouTube or some app has some clips of it, but I really don't know.
Yeah. Well, I really look forward to it. To watching all three of those when they come out.
Yeah, they run the gamut. They are neither of any of them are alike, and to a greater or lesser degree of the the special effects and all that stuff. So
it's just showcasing your broad acting skills, your broad range genres.
Right.
I was thinking, were you doing any of these at the same time, where you have two projects happening at the same time, but they're two completely different characters that you have to get in the mindset of?
Yeah, I haven't really had much of that. I mean, my stuff, when you're doing a play, it's pretty hard to do anything else because you're committed to the time. And, unless you're doing two films or a film and a TV show that are close together in proximity wise, geographically, it's really hard to do two different things at once. So I've never really had that issue.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've been lucky that way, I guess.
Even then I would be like, okay, I have a new role. I have to try to not act like I did in my previous role. And
Yeah.
get into that new, I mean, that's the skill, that's the career, that actors have. So
yeah, I've had times where I'm doing a play or something, and then I will do, or vice versa, doing film and then have a theater audition where you go from the thing you're working on to an audition, and they'll say in the audition, let's tone it down a little bit, let's make it a little smaller, or let's just think about a larger room, think about a little more voice and all that stuff. So sometimes you do have to make those adjustments, if you're doing like an audition or something. But
well,
yeah,
that takes a lot of skill, a lot of focus.
Yeah.
So for your upcoming projects, Renfield, Cabin in the Woods, Elevator Game, since we don't have like a set date, where can we go to keep track of this? Can we keep track of this on any socials that you have?
Not really socials that I have. I think the best thing to do is just sort of Google it from time to time and see where it is in the, in the pipe. Yeah, I don't really know. I don't have anything that I can share because I don't have access to the footage. And most of the stuff now with the Shyamalan and with Renfield, I have, you have to sign an NDA. So you're really limited as to what you can, even if I knew what it was, about it, you're limited to what you can reveal. They kind of, I guess, control that a little bit more. But I'm looking forward to being able to share something when I know more. But right now it's, film takes a long time to get done. So I'm just I'm sitting and waiting like everybody else. So
watching movies in the meantime.
Yeah, watching movies in the meantime. Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I got one more question for you. It looks like our guest isn't showing up. I don't know what's going on,
Could
but
have been the time zone. I don't know.
Yeah. So looking back at your whole career, this is a hard question. What are you most proud of? What's your most proud accomplishment, do you think?
So far.
Yeah.
So far. Well, I guess, it's weird because such an element of this stuff is time, and you can't, there's just no way to appreciate time in that moment. I mean, like when Fright Night opened, it was a little summer horror movie for the kids. I mean, that's what they thought they were making. And and I thought, oh, cool, that's a good first film. That'll be a good first film for me. And for it to have I mean, it's bigger now than it was when it opened. It's it's got a generational fan base, and and people are, it's kind of iconic, as you say, in a lot of ways. And there's just, I appreciate that. When something has staying power, then that's not something you recognize in the moment. That's just something that happens as a function of the quality of the work and and the real basic fan base appreciation of it. So I'm proud of that, and I'm glad that people enjoy it, and and that makes it more enriching.
And it lives forever too. So.
I'm young forever. I'm young forever in Fright Night, and scared forever, and all that stuff. So, but and I mean, and also because of that, I really miss Roddy. I wish he were here to participate in all of this. This sort of the life of the thing, because I know he would love it, and he'd have 100 better stories than any of us have. And, so that's I'm proud of it in that I'm I'm delighted by it. You know,
Yeah.
it has value to me emotionally.
And I'm glad that you're proud of it too, and that you go to cons and you're so proud of how it's done, because I'll like talk to managers sometimes of actors and I'll be like, hey, I really loved you. Like this just happened to me. I won't name names. But I was like, hey, we're big fans of this trilogy you did in the 80s and 90s. Do you want to come on and talk about it? And they're just like, no, I'm never talking about the 80s stuff again. And it's like, I was taken aback a bit. You know what I mean? I see where they're coming from, but at the same time, like, I like where you're coming from too, where you're proud of it,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and, if I had not, if I didn't do the cons or didn't do interviews about it or something, I'm not sure how much I would remember of it. I mean, it was 2 months in my 20s. So, I have basic memories, but, because I've watched it so many times and because people have, shared their experiences of it with me, it allows you to, it enriches your experience of it. And so, I mean, there's no way, it would be foolish of me to, say, I'm not going to talk about Fright Night, whatever. And I know what you're saying. I've been at cons with people who don't want to talk about the thing they're there for, It's like,
right.
What is that about? But, and I understand if you get asked the same question over and over again, you got to find new answers for it or something, people get tired of that. Or, I always think about like Bob Denver, who you guys might not remember, but he's a guy who played Gilligan on Gilligan's Island.
Yeah.
I worked with him one time and I said, boy, it's just, what's it like, And he said, it's terrible, because that's all anybody knows. That's all I can talk about. That's all anybody wants to, but he put on his, his game face and, he went with it. So, and I think he appreciated it. Once you realize it's not coming back, then I think that it makes it easier to, to embrace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Everyone loves the nostalgia,
Yeah. It's got that awesome 80s nostalgia. It's got like the teen angst. It's got the awesome horror, the cool special effects.
Humor.
Yeah. Some humor mixed in.
Yeah.
It's classic.
Yeah. It's
you just don't get very many good ones like that anymore. So.
Yeah. And I think that there's an innocence about it too, which everybody who was there in the 80s or anybody who's really, been a teenager or something like that is, they connect to. It's like, oh yeah, no one would believe me when I would say things or, have experiences. So I think people connect to that, even new generations.
Yeah.
And the Renfield movie has a lot of humor in it. So it really revisits that. The guy who directed it, Chris McKay, was a big Fright Night fan. So, and he was referencing it a lot. So I think it'll have a lot of the same feel to it. I hope so. And, should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing all of those.
Yeah, definitely.
All the new ones that you got coming out. Yeah. We were creeping on IMDb and I was like, ooh,
oh,
look fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were stalking you on Google.
Just creeping around, getting all the info we can on William Ragsdale.
Right. Well, good. That's the way of the world now.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Well,
did you guys see that? Did you guys see the new Fright Night?
I did. Yeah.
Okay. I'm not putting words in your mouth. You tell me
okay, I'll tell you what I think. I'm not going to badmouth it because the cast was awesome. It's a great cast.
Yeah.
And obviously Colin Farrell is an outstanding actor.
Yeah.
But I think the fact that I saw the original Fright Night so many times first, it just ruined it for me. Because how are you going to top that? Right. That's my feelings.
You'd have to completely do it differently and not try to mimic it at all. Otherwise, it's
I didn't see the sequel to the new one, but
right.
Yeah, that's my feeling. Like the other one is so iconic. It's like, I don't know, you just can't top it to me. So
you can't watch the new one without comparing.
Even with that awesome cast they had, the ensemble. It's like, no.
It's not the cast's fault or the writer's fault. It's just that you have like an original film and it hasn't aged enough yet for people to forget about it, you know? So
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, you ruined it for everyone.
Sorry. Yeah. That's what I do.
Yeah.
Is that what you do to all of our guests? Point at them and say, "You ruined it."
You.
Yeah. That'd be a good tagline for your show. Every guest you have on, you can say, "You ruined."
It's just a freeze frame of
In a good way.
us at William
Yeah,
Ragsdale.
our new interview segment. You ruined it for all of us.
Time to play "You Ruined It," where you were so good. No one can ever do it.
What you just can't mess with the classics, you know. Like I get that they want to tap into the new generation, but you'd have to redo it entirely in a way it's unrecognizable and name it something else, you know.
But then it's not really.
I mean,
You know.
just do something different. Stop trying to. Don't mess with it. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know.
Yeah. 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 That's what I sort of felt like when they said they were going to do it. But it was interesting because when I was living in LA at the time, and they used the same artwork from our movie, the clouds with the mouth and all that stuff. They used that when they were promoting the new movie. So it was on the sides of buses and billboards and, in magazines or whatever. And it was really surreal because it was like I was having the experience of what other people must have had, seeing the ads the first time around, except I wasn't involved at all. It was almost like a dream or something where you've been in something, but now it's somebody else or something. It was very strange, but
yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, my opinion, just don't remake any classics. Like I just read they're gonna remake Scarface. I mean, it's classic.
Well, Scarface
and Jaws
Scarface
maybe
itself was a remake, so I guess that sort of.
Now I feel like a fool. I'll cut this out of the interview.
As you well know.
Yeah.
It was a remake. It was a remake from like the 1930s or 40s or something like that. So, I say that like that's a long time to wait because they remade it in the 70s or something.
Yeah.
So, but that's about the same distance between Fright Night and the one I made and the new one. But yeah, I don't know if you can do it better. I guess try, but I don't know. I mean, the new Fright Night. So much of our movie depended on innocence, the innocence of everybody, and the new one really didn't have that. It was more, jaded kind of high school kids, I guess, or something, but I don't know.
Yeah. And then just the whole industry itself changes so much in that amount of time that the impact it has 20, 30 years later just isn't going to be the same. So,
right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Like, and an important part of that film was knowing what a late night horror host is and what they do and, how it ties in. And I'm not sure they have much of that anymore. I mean, everything is on demand or streaming or, so that sort of function of that character doesn't exist anymore. And,
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Times are changing.
Yeah.
Times are changing.
I mean, he even talks about that kind of like in Fright Night, how, he gets fired because no one wants to watch the late night host anymore,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So it was like an homage to the innocence of those old horror movies, and doesn't feel like much innocence left anymore.
Just
I've ruined it for you now. I ruined it again.
There you go.
Ruin it again.
You're
ruining
Welcome,
it again.
everyone. This will be all over the internet now. William Ragsdale, he ruined everything for everyone.
Yeah.
All movies ruined.
No, because he's got 3 new ones coming out where he actually helped everyone in those movies.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Exactly.
Assuming I didn't ruin them when they put the movie together.
No way. So I think that's all the questions that we had.
Okay.
Did you have any more questions?
Do you know what that guy's question was that he was gonna ask?
You're the
The
one.
contest winner.
This was you were in on this.
I think it was.
He was gonna ask something about.
Apparently, he wanted some kind of prize. He wanted some sort of physical.
So there is a physical prize coming though.
Yeah, well, he is getting a couple small ones.
Yeah.
From one of our sponsors. So maybe he just couldn't make it. I told him to let me know if he couldn't make it. He didn't get back to me. So, but I think his question was, is there any truth that you found out you got the part to Fright Night on Halloween? I think
Yes.
that's what it was.
Yeah,
That is
they
true.
called me on Halloween night, and
That's cool.
I had been auditioning for it for a couple of months,
Mhm.
and I was still living up in San Francisco, and so the auditions were in LA, and I had this little beater Honda or a Toyota Celica or something, and I was just, I was worried every time I had to drive through from San Francisco to LA that it was gonna, make it. So I think I drove down like 4 or 5 times for it, and then I finally got the call on Halloween night that I was that guy they were going with. So it's perfect.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Fitting.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Wouldn't it be like April Fool's Day? Got the part. Did I? Are you sure?
yeah, right. Oh, nice try. Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Do I show up to work?
Yeah.
I would just in case.
Yeah. It was great. It was great. And then I found out maybe the next week or something, because nobody, as far as I knew, I didn't know anybody who had been cast at that point. So then I found out it was Roddy, who I had loved as a kid growing up, and Chris, who was a real, heavy hitter actor. And so it was like, oh, this is going to be,
Dang.
this is not just a little summer horror movie for kids. This is going to be a lot of fun. So
Yeah.
it was really good.
It's awesome. Cool. Well, I think that was all of our questions. Did you have any
No,
to
thank
add
you guys
any
for having me so much.
plugs
I'm
of
glad
any
that
kind? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks a lot for
My
joining us
pleasure.
today and giving us your time.
There
Yeah.
was something that he wanted to say because he just can't help himself. He was already practicing last night.
I wanted to say this, and she's like, please don't. I want to say, oh, you're so cool, Brewster.
Well, I have to concur. I guess I have to agree with it. What am I not gonna agree with it? Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
thanks a lot for joining us.
Appreciate that.
Really appreciate
I've had that effect on people.
Yes. Yeah, we really appreciate your time and talking with us.
Terrific. Well, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for watching
Yeah.
and enjoying.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Hey everybody, this is John. You might know me as Jack Redshirt on the Portalville podcast series. I'd like to tell you about a special offer from our sponsor, Cocalero. When you go to shopcocalero.com and enter the coupon code PORTAL10, PORTAL10 at checkout, you can get 10% off your purchase of Cocalero Classico or Negro. And if that deal wasn't awesome enough, guess what? You always get free shipping on your purchase of 3 bottles or more. So go check out shopcocalero.com.